Tampa Bay Spirits presents Haunted Campfire Tales Live. Welcome. Gather around the fire. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. The true ghost tales are about to unfold.
Hi, we're back again.
And tonight it will be about creepy stuff, creepy and unexplained stuff. So
there you go. And I'm Rob.
I'm Joan.
I'm Les.
I'm Beth.
I'm Jess.
I'm Joy.
I'm Robin.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah, we're still us.
Still us.
Oh,
Tampa Bay Spirits.
Hello.
Paul Rushworth Brown says, hello from Sydney. Hi, Paul.
Hi,
We're so
Paul.
glad you could make it tonight.
Hello.
Paul
Welcome
Hollis says, hello, Campfire team. You guys came to listen on the right night. We're going to tell really creepy, unexplained stuff. And Rob and I are finally going to talk about demons. When we were back in the day when we were dealing with demons. Yeah. But we'll go last. Beth and Les, why don't you tell some of your stories first?
Okay. One of the best stories that we have comes from a home that we investigated 3 or 4 times. We kept going back and it never disappointed. We had a lot of activity going on in this house. Do you want to tell the story about the bride room first?
Yeah, in the bride's room. We, at that time, was doing a silent walkthrough first thing. And everybody would take notes. I took temperature readings and stuff because I don't see or hear anything. So sensitives were all writing down what they were picking up. And we're in a room that we called the bride's room because it had a wedding gown that was hanging in it. So, and I think it was 5 of us standing around the bed and nobody saying a word. We're all taking notes and stuff. And from we don't know where, a penny falls on the floor. And it wasn't that somebody had moved and kicked it and it just slid across the floor. It bounced. You could hear it bounce on the floor. And we just kind of looked at each other and went, who did that? You know, did anybody throw a penny? No. And it turned out that happened a couple of times during the night. But as we went through the house and done each room and stuff, we found pennies laying everywhere.
Wow.
So we'll have no idea where they come from. But we actually heard it fall, hit the floor, and bounce.
So it happened several times during the night?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere in the house.
Wow.
That's
Everywhere in the house.
crazy.
The energy was so strong in this house that the sensitives could feel the energy building before the equipment notified us that it was coming in. And this was a 2-story home, and half of our team was upstairs and half was downstairs. And this, the spirit that was in the home was a male, and he wasn't real happy that we were there. And he would check on us. He would travel from the second floor to the first floor and back and forth. And we could feel his energy before he even entered the room. And then we would notify that he's coming back, and then the equipment would go off.
Yeah, we had K2 meters and stuff on the table, and they could sense when he was coming, and then it would start lighting up as he was getting there. And they could call it every time. It was really amazing. And it's the only place that I've ever picked up anything.
It was also,
You were picking up the pennies.
Picking up pennies as I went.
Yeah.
it was also strong enough that it was calling to me in my dreams, and I was getting several scenarios in my dreams before we went that the homeowner later verified were correct. at one point, we went to the large bedroom, a master bedroom, and had someone sitting on the bed in this room. And several things happened in the room prior to that, but I could hear the heavy booted footsteps coming through the hallway. And once he entered the bedroom, he either said, "Get out" or "Get up." And I could audibly hear that. And I noted that to everyone. I said, I'm going to leave. He is not happy that we're in here. I think I'm going to step out. Y'all do what you need to do. But he told us to either get out or get up. So we left. And later, in review of the audio, which I have, but I would have to search for it for probably a month to find it. It did say, get out. He told us to get out. In this particular room also, I was touched in an area that I should not have been touched. And
I got blamed.
Sounds about right.
Across the room. Look, I had meters and microphone, everything. I had my hands full. Okay? But it was dark and we couldn't see nothing in there. Screamed at me and I went, "Hey, over here."
yeah, I was by myself being touched. So it was an interesting evening. But every time we went to this home, it just didn't fail. So
that reminds me real quick of a ghost hunter story.
Uh-oh.
The ghost hunters.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Jay and Grant, and they were investigating a bourbon factory. And they were in two different parts of the factory. And I think it was Jay that got goosed.
Yeah.
Jay got goosed, okay, by an entity.
why did they do that?
At the same time, they heard a trumpet and ghostly entities going, "Hallelujah!"
This is terrible.
So that story that you were talking about, Les and Beth, about the coins, that made me think about, there's an episode of Unsolved Mysteries where they talked about the paranormal rangers that the Navajo had.
Yeah.
and these two guys, they investigated strange things that were happening on the reservation in Navajo country. And they were going different places, investigating anything that was out of normal, right? Paranormal. So like cryptids or anything like that. And they went to a place that was, people were complaining it was haunted and things were happening. And they had that phenomenon happen with coins. And coins kept falling, just materializing. Like they couldn't figure out where they were coming from. Yeah, just regular coins, but they would fall and bounce, just like you described. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like that's, like, when you said that, it immediately made me think of that, because that's so specific,
Yeah.
to find coins, and not only finding coins in random places, but they're falling from, and you can't find the source, right? Like,
Right.
so I thought that was really interesting when you said that. It made me think of that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that before. So
I know some mediums say that finding coins where there shouldn't be them is a sign from the other side. I have heard that.
it makes me think of like a trickster spirit kind of situation, right? Too, like maybe or like what they describe as like fairy spirits or things like that, like elemental things. Like a lot of times it's, I mean, what was the point of that? Are they just trying to get your attention, or are they kind of messing with you or having fun? Yeah, Marjorie is asking, are coins significant in some way? She remembers also seeing a paranormal program that had to do with coins falling from the ceiling. That's a good question. I know, like, some uh religions or traditions involve putting coins on the eye of, like,
Mhm.
people when they have passed,
Mhm.
right? So there is symbolism to coins that is related to the afterlife and things like that, but I don't know. That's so interesting
Well,
to me.
money is used to buy things, and people touch money, and so there's
Mhm.
a lot more to money than we realize.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hmm.
Marjorie also said, so even ghosts have a sense of humor.
Yes, she said
Uh
that earlier.
Talking about
Bird-
the ghost goosing Grant and the trumpet and the, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Uh, and it's funny because we were talking about, like, most startling things that we've experienced or more surprising things. And I think you all were saying I should share about the floor moving beneath me. And I've talked about it on the show before. I will talk about it again because I don't have any experiences that I really feel like were um scary. I've been startled before, or felt like, okay, not right now. Like, I don't I don't want to experience this right now. But I've never felt afraid, except in this instance I was startled because I literally thought I was falling through the attic floor. Um and I think mom and dad, I think you have it on video, probably.
We have it on video and we have it on audio. We had just listened to the audio again the other night. Yeah,
Yeah. And so it was
you come through
at
loud and clear.
yeah, it was at the same museum that we were just talking about, the May Stringer, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
the bookstore.
I'm like, correct me if I'm wrong on the name. And um just back in November, and we were investigating, and we were in the attic, and I was doing the Estes method. So I had headphones, noise canceling headphones,
I
and I
think you
had
did that, didn't you?
what?
It was right
It
at the
was right at the
beginning.
beginning of the session.
Beth had done it first, and then you had started, and it was right
Yeah.
when you started.
You
Or
just
as
turned the lights
Marjorie
out.
says, why is Beth wearing training
The
bra?
training bra, yeah. So I had a blindfold on, I had the noise canceling headphones, and I was they were scanning a station, so you're hearing sounds and voices, but the way I experience it is I am hearing lots of things, lots of words and phrases and things like that. But there are certain ones that I just know is what I am supposed to be saying, or like what they're wanting me to point out, in other words. So I just repeat what I'm hearing and what stands out to me as something that's significant.
Mhm.
So this spirit definitely had a sense of humor, and, like, right off the bat, I was hearing this silly sound, like, it was like, um and I had to do it. It's really hard for me to explain or articulate what I mean, but I could just tell that they wanted me to say things in a specific way, and so I kept getting this voice going like, "Oh," and, like like I was doing the silly opera voice, like, "Oh," like. And so I kept doing that. I was doing it and just laughing because I was like, "I don't know why this is happening," but okay. Like, I don't know what I couldn't hear what my team was asking or what was going on. Um, and it was a very playful energy for sure the whole time. But at one point, so, we had the lights off out there. Like I said, I was blindfolded and I had these noise canceling headphones, so I was in my own world. Just completely, sense deprivation other than what I was hearing through the headphones, and all of a sudden, I don't know if you've ever been on, like, a kind of bouncy floor or like a bridge and somebody walks past you, or like even like in an office building, sometimes the floors are a little bouncy and someone walks past you heavily. Uh, that's how the best way I can explain it. It felt like somebody was bouncing the floor, like walking really heavily past me. And at first,
Sorry.
yeah. Mood music.
Sorry.
That's okay. But
We can
and
do the other
as
music if you'd rather, Jesse.
yeah, as soon as that like started happening, it felt to me like I was like falling backwards or falling through the floor. And so I reacted because it startled me. So I went, oh, like, or something like that. But I immediately, I realized I was not falling. So I thought one of my team members had walked past me, because it was also simultaneously a breeze went past my side. Like I felt a breeze, like someone walks past you and the breeze carries with them. And it really startled me a lot. But I immediately was laughing. I mean, from my memory, that's what happened. I was, and then I started laughing and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm okay. I just thought I was falling through the floor. No big deal.
Nothing unusual.
Yeah. And I felt bad I didn't mean to startle anyone else, but it just really took me by surprise. So I don't know what
We couldn't see
that.
you very well, so it was
Yeah.
I was a little nervous for a second, but
Yeah. So I don't know what was happening there. If like was the entity walking by me and like making that happen, or was someone just playing around with me, or I don't know. It felt like someone just stomping past me, like but when Marjorie said, so even ghosts have a sense of humor, I think that entity that we were interacting with was very playful and fun and joking around a lot. And so it was startling at first, but I was not afraid once I realized I was not actually falling through the floor and going to be hurting. So
Well, as a matter of fact, the other team, the team that does the tours and stuff there, and that do it at the railroad to the railroad depot, they had that audio that they let us listen to where that same entity went boo. He literally
yeah,
boo out loud that you could hear with your ears.
right.
And then he laughed.
So was he like, does he just think that's funny? And so he was playing around and trying to,
I
like, he
think
thought it was funny that he startled me. I don't know.
well, we can ask him in November when we go
when we
back.
go back,
Guess what they're doing when we go back?
I am there for it. That was so much fun. Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, they believe that the docents and the people at the museum believe that this entity traveled to them with a trunk, an actor's trunk. So I find it interesting that he had such a personality, and the operatic voice
Yes.
might all play into the fact that he was an actor.
Yeah.
And you were sitting about 5 foot from the trunk.
Yes, you were very close to the trunk.
That is
Yeah,
true.
you
I was
were
like right
the closest
across
to the trunk. Yep. That's true. The rest of us
Well,
were
that
way
was fun.
were you?
So that was a fun one. I don't feel like it was very spooky or scary, or it didn't feel malicious at all. It was a very playful interaction, but it did startle me
But
very
it is
much at
unexplained.
first.
It is unexplained.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't explain it, just like
Yeah.
the things are unexplained. Where does that come from?
Yeah.
You have a spooky, creepy, and I like this one because you were only 12 when it happened.
Yes. I lived in upstate New York at the time, and there was a I know this is like a long story leading up to it, but just I used to like to explore. There was a um, like a wildlife preserve that I didn't realize until we moved away that that's what it was. And there was this a reservoir and a long it was, I guess, a creek. I don't think it was a river. It wasn't wide enough, but it ran into it. And one day with a friend of mine, we decided to walk up the other way. And we were walking, like through the woods, and we finally came out, and there were some houses over here. And we came out, and there was this old building. There was across the street, across the road, because there was a road in between, there was this very old, it looked like it was from the early 1800s. It was all built in black stone. It was beautiful. And then this other, whatever it was, if it was a carriage house, it was pretty large, or some sort of barn or whatever, that was clearly in disrepair on this side. So we crossed over this creek. There were some stepping stones there, which was convenient because we were probably being lured in, but we crossed over, and we were afraid to go in, because we didn't know if somebody actually lived there, but it was clearly there. I mean, there were vines growing up. There were like double doors, and there were vines growing up around them. And the doors down at the bottom were canted, like they wouldn't really close. So we debated for probably half an hour, because we were a little nervous about going in, just basically breaking into somebody's building. But we decided we would go in. And as soon as we opened the door, there was like this rush of air and noise that came down the stairs. And this is why I never really talk about this story very much, because it was so bizarre and very just different from any other experience I have had before or since. But there was this rush of air and all this noise, and we took off running. We went back across the stones, and as we were running down the alongside the water on the other side from where this building was, this mist came up, and in the mist we could see something, a shadow dogging us in the mist. There was no mist on our side. There was only a mist on this other side. And by the time we got home, we were both hysterical, because it stopped. Like, it reached a certain point, and then the mist abruptly stopped, and we kept going. We went all the way home. But like I had said, 3 weeks later, I was like, I'm going in there. I went back. But I think, and it was definitely abandoned. There was all sorts of interesting things in there, like old books in Russian, because my mother spoke 8 languages. So I took one of the books home for her to look at, so she could tell me, and furniture. And there was a car in the back that still had some clothes over the back seat. It was just like an old car from the 1940s. But that one experience, I think the reason why I don't talk about it a lot too, is because I have it semi blocked out, because it was just so like something you would see in a movie. So like I've said before, I've experienced things where, like, the entity in my grandmother's house, and the entity in my vet's house, and things that other things I've experienced. And this was just so different and threatening. I was stupid enough to go back, but yes, it was threatening. The fact that this dark black, it was like a shadow. You could see it against the mist, and it was dogging our movements. And it wasn't like our shadows, because it wasn't 2, it was just 1, until the mist abruptly ended, and that was it. But yeah, so that's my creepy story.
That's a good one.
Cool.
It was weird. It was just like, and I'm sure people out there right now are going, she's crazy.
I don't think so.
I don't think
Not
so.
at all.
Yeah, it was something that I won't forget. I can still see it in my mind. I can still see it now that my son brought it up and decided he needed to remind me of it.
Your stories.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
You should weave it into one of your stories.
Yeah.
I had,
Yeah,
a,
sure.
I had a question though, Robin. You said that there was a dark shadow in the midst. Did it look like a, yeah, Marjorie again. Marjorie goes, yes.
Yes, you're crazy. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're asking if it looked human?
Yes. That is what I was asking.
Don't not entirely.
Mm.
Didn't look entirely human. Excuse me. Hold on a
Okay.
second.
That's all.
The way it moved, it had a humanoid shape, but the way it moved was not quite human, and it had the head almost looked like super long hair flowing back, like not like long like a woman would have, but like if a guy had, well, longer than mine, and it was just like waving in the lack of wind because it wasn't windy
That
as it
is
was.
creepy.
Oh yeah, it was so creepy.
White. He's also from Australia. Crazy just like the rest of us. Hi, everyone. Hi, Robert.
Good morning to you, Robert.
Good morning. Yes, he and Paul Rushworth Brown are both from Australia. Glad that you tuned in. You're going to hear some really creepy, real stories that we've all experienced. Joy, do you have one?
Well, yeah, and I may have. I'm not sure if we talked about it like off camera or on camera, so I'll make it kind of in case I'm being redundant. But I was the manager of a department store that I'd just recently been transferred to, and there was rumored too that the store had been replaced by a house of ill repute. So the employees were telling me that there were all kinds of crazy things that happened, and they called her Elizabeth. And there was actually the overnight crew. There were usually two people in, and these guys quit because one of the guys was getting, while he was working, was getting men's socks thrown at him. And when he was yelling at the other guy to stop because he thought he was messing with him. And then so it didn't happen for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden it did happen again. And he went over there thinking he was on the other side of the gondolas, and he couldn't find him. He thought, well, I'm going to find him. Well, he was on the other side of the store buffing the floor, so there's no way he could have let go of that machine to go over there and throw socks at him. So when I was there one night in the electronics department, when all the lights at a certain time, all of the lights went down, and to like low emergency lighting and whatever. But we had the televisions and electronics and the stereos on different, those gondola lines were on different circuit, and they had to be manually turned off because it would screw up all of the receptions and all the cable and everything. So somebody told me that they walked by and that they saw the televisions on, but she didn't know what to do because that was in her department. Mm-hmm. So everybody was waiting at the door for me. And I said, well, I'll go back and turn them off. So I went down the line and just, hit all of the buttons on all of the televisions on like a 40-foot line. And then like a 30-foot line I started turning off all the stereos, and I got midway down, and all of a sudden one of the stereos turned back on, and the cassette, or for the CDs, it ejected with nothing in it. So I went back and I pushed that in, and then the one next to it turned on and it ejected the CD thing. And I pushed it back in and went down and continued to go. And then all of a sudden I got all the way to the end, and then they were off and on. I mean, like going out and going in, and this one would turn on and that one would turn off, and I'd go and push it, and then one down here would turn it on. And I'm like, and I was so dumbfounded. I was like, okay, Elizabeth, stop messing with me. And then it just kept going. And then I started like freaking out. What am I going to do? And then a television turned on. And then I went over there and turned the television off. And then I went back, and these things were just coming in and out. And I thought, nobody in this world would believe this. Nobody. And so I'm like screaming for somebody. And, all the lights were out at that point. And I felt like I was screaming in a vacuum.
Mhm.
And it was like, why is nobody hearing me? I was screaming at the top of my lungs. And finally, I just ran all the way up to the door and I told them what happened. And I said, didn't you hear me screaming? And they're like, no,
Wow.
we didn't hear anything.
Oh my
And
God.
so I brought somebody back with me. I said, you've got to see this. I can't get these CD things keep ejecting. I can't get this to stop. We went back. Everything was off. None of them were out.
Of course.
And that has got to be like the weirdest interaction. I can't even imagine how that happened.
Whack-a-mole with the CD players.
I even asked Monday, the security camera was from the side. It was not directly on them because I'm like, I want somebody to see that. I am not crazy. And but the camera didn't point that way, so it didn't. It showed me going back and forth, but they couldn't tell what I was doing or anything.
That sounds like a scene from Ghostbusters.
It does.
You know,
Really
like
the wildest thing.
it
I've ever
really
seen.
sounds like I could
Awesome.
see that happening to Bill Murray or whatever, you know, like, and him just being like,
It's
"Ah."
really crazy. That's some major activity there.
Yeah, that is.
Well, it was, and somebody said, well, it may have just been power things that were going off, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how they would have all gone back in, but they would go in a minute, and then I'd walk down, and then they'd come back out. So, but anyway, that was my weird thing.
Marjorie Deering said, you should have called Rob and she'd have come. Then she said, I can't help myself tonight.
Thanks, Marjorie.
Yeah, we love it.
We do. We love Marjorie. She's always hilarious, let me tell you. Well, our thing is a lot of you know, most of you know, even people in the audience, I think, know that we were demonologists for 18 years. Demonologists, exorcists, part of a deliverance team, however you want to call it. We dealt with demons all the time. And we don't do that anymore. And I do want to make this very, very clear. We've never dealt with any demons on any of our investigations in private homes or in public places or anything. It's not real common.
We don't go looking for them,
No.
and they don't appear.
Right.
Out of thin air.
We were asked for, people would call us when they needed our services. And so I know that a lot of you have asked in the past, the people in the audience have asked us about it and to talk about it. And we don't like to talk about it a whole lot because we don't want people to feel like it's a common thing or anything like that or anything to be afraid of. But some of the stuff is, disturbing. One time I was tossed about 3 to 4 feet, landed on my back. And that's not fun when something unseen can, chuck you backwards. Another time, we got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. And one of the people in our church, the husband used to pray all the time to see an angel. He wanted to see an angel, and he'd pray all the time to see an angel. And his wife called us at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they had 2 children, one a toddler and one about 8 months old. And she said he had been praying, and in the room that he was praying in, all of a sudden the door slammed and locked. And she said she was knocking on the door and trying to get the door open, and he wasn't answering her. And she ran outside and looked in through the window, and she said he looked almost catatonic.
He was like in a trance.
He was like in a trance, and he was praying. And she said then the house got really, really cold. And then all of the windows started slamming down, and the windows all locked. And then their doors started slamming and opening and locking. And she was terrified. She was afraid for her husband and for her children and for herself. And what had happened was he had prayed to see an angel, and he got to see one. He got to see a fallen one, not a messenger from God, but a different kind. So that was not a pleasant night, but yeah. Another time we had people came to us from out of state, and they came to our house, and I forget, it was like a young man or something. This was a learning curve for us. This was at the beginning of when we were doing this. We never had anyone in our house again because they bring it in with them.
Ever.
Oh,
No
wow.
one else has ever come in my parents' house.
Not
They
anyone.
don't let us in either.
We've
We
never
don't let
gotten
anyone with this particular kind of problem come to our house. We will meet them someplace else in their home.
So that's why we keep you away, Jess.
Okay. That's what they tell me anyway. I'm like, can I come over? And they're like, no, you know what it's like. You know the rule.
So Rob had prayed for this young man, and the demon literally jumped out of him and into our dog. And our dog went ballistic. It was horrible. The dog was screeching and contorting, and Rob said
So I turned around and commanded
it
it to come out of the dog
and go back to
and
hell.
get back to hell where it
Yeah.
belonged.
And it did.
And it did.
Yeah.
By the blood of Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was couple of the things. I mean, I don't know how much you really want to hear.
Anyway, they're
Those
not
are all pretty scary.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You don't
Right,
look
so-
for them, and they don't look for you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Don't look for them. That's absolutely right. You don't want to, that's not something you want to walk into or look for. I just don't recommend it.
use protection before we have our investigations, and then we close out at the end as well.
Mhm.
So anything that's at whatever location we're at
Stays.
has to stay there.
Mhm.
Right.
And I will say again, we've never encountered demons in any of the
Right.
public places we've gone or in any of the private homes.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this before. And like Beth, I think you've mentioned it before, that sometimes when you are someone who's sensitive to spirit or things that are paranormal, that you can have experiences that would seem unpleasant or uncomfortable. And I kind of equate it to animals. When animals are trying to communicate with you, and they might um bark, or they might use their teeth, or claws, because that's how they communicate with each other, or that's their way of communication. They can't use like a verbal word, right? And say, "Hey, please don't do that," or "Hey, I want to play with you right now," or "I want your attention," or "I need something." They'll like, my cats or whatever will like come over and like chomp on my leg if they want to play, right? And they're not trying to hurt me, but they're trying to get my attention because they want something, right? Or they're trying to communicate something to me. And I feel like sometimes you might have an unpleasant sensation, right? And I know, Beth, you've experienced that before when we've been investigating, where you've picked up things maybe that the spirit there was trying to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
or it had experienced before.
Mhm.
And so we're picking up on those feelings, and there have even been times where you've been like, "Hey, you need to back off on that," right?
Mm-hmm.
And please stop doing what you're doing, because that's making us feel uncomfortable, or that's not nice for us. We hear you. We're here to, listen to you. And that's like a very different thing. And I don't feel like it's ever been scary where we're like, this is something to be afraid of. It could be unpleasant or uncomfortable, and especially if you didn't understand that that's what was happening, that I could understand being very you know, taking you by surprise and being unpleasant, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Many
But-
times people feel they'll get chest pain
yeah.
or feel sick, nauseous, or bad headaches,
Mhm.
and they feel like it's a demon, somebody that an entity is trying to hurt them, and
And it
most
is.
often is that entity is trying to identify themselves, and they do that by, you know, if you have pressure on your chest, it could have been something like congestive heart failure or that type of thing. And they're trying to identify themselves and give you the feeling of how they pass so that you could recognize who they are. And people
Right.
think it's demonic, but it really isn't. It's just a form of
It
communication.
isn't. It's very rare to run into that. It really is. And that's why we don't like to talk about it that much.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, because when you do run into it, you know that it's demonic. It's a lot different than, I mean, we've all been poked or touched when we've been
Yeah.
investigating, and it isn't anything demonic or nasty. I've had my hair pulled more than once, and I know that Rob has had his pants legs pulled. It's just a way of saying, hey, you know, I'm here.
Mhm.
You know, pay attention to me.
Yeah, and I thought that was like a good time to bring it up when we're talking about that kind of thing, because most of the time it's not anything malicious or that
Right.
needs to be scary. It's mostly just like when your animal is acting that way, it's just because that's how they communicate or can communicate. That's what they have the ability to do. And so knowing that, you know, you don't get mad at your animal if they're trying to do that to you, because you understand, like, oh, they're an animal and that's how they talk to you, you know. And so it can help to understand what's going on and not feel so scared, because oftentimes if you're like, hey, okay, is there someone here who wants to communicate? This is making me uncomfortable. Please stop this thing that's happening. And it usually does, you know?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's important too when we're investigating, that we communicate, you know, if you want to, you can touch me, you know, but you
Right.
don't say it for the whole group, because everybody gets their own choice.
Yeah.
You can touch me if you want to, you know, or don't touch me. I don't want to be touched. I mean, you know,
No goosing.
no,
Yeah,
never.
that's right.
Never appropriate behavior. I don't care how you're going to get in touch with us.
So can there just be mean people? I mean, like there are
Yes.
mean people,
Yes.
and that I would think that as ghosts, and knowing they could get away with it even more because people can't see
Sure.
them. I mean, can't that translate with them just being mean as opposed to them being demonic?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Oh,
get
yeah.
it.
More than
Definitely.
likely, it's just a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
Exactly.
feeling
Great
that goes along
point.
with it, that you sense, that you can tell the evil.
There's
As
big
opposed to
difference
the
between being a
jerko.
jerk. Yeah.
Mhm.
Big difference
Yeah.
between demonic and jerk.
Yeah.
Actually, Jessie I and her sister were investigating at Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia. And there was a young man with his father investigating also. And I think he was probably on the spectrum, don't you think, Jessie, the son?
Hmm.
Yeah. It's a very sweet boy, and he wanted to go everywhere with us. And his father was like, oh, I don't know. And we said, no, that's fine. He can come. But because he was on the spectrum, he didn't, you know, I think he didn't appreciate everything as other people would. And one of the things that we'd been warned about was in this particular room that there was a man who had, he had been a convicted rapist. And he had particularly liked blonde women. He liked to hurt blonde women. And my hair was white, you know, but it looks blonde to a lot of people. And we were in the room and we were talking to that entity, and this young man says to him, "Do you want to hurt her?" and points at me. Everybody was like, "Whoa."
Sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the bus?
Like, hold on
Let's-
there.
Let's not invite him to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no.
Not what he intended. I know, but it was very funny.
It was. It made
There
me,
you go.
Yeah.
do you want to hurt her? Oh, great. Don't hurt me, please. Yeah, that was a fun night. It was a long night. Oh dear. Any more spooky, creepy, scary stories anybody wants to tell?
I think I already told in another show about what went on at my grandmother's house, right? I think in the
know.
bathroom.
I don't remember.
Marjorie, I don't either, but Marjorie has hearing stories of spirits telling investigators to get out tends to surprise me. I would think spirits would be glad to have someone to communicate with, providing it's done in a respectful way. Well, Marjorie, you would think that, and we and our team in particular, we are very, very respectful, and we introduce ourselves and we tell them that we are only there to communicate and to learn more and to help them if they need help. We don't provoke. We never do that. We just let them do whatever they want. But I think some spirits just feel that they own the space and they want everybody out. They just,
Right.
like you would tell a stranger to get out of your house. Get out.
Yeah. I was going to.
And just like in life, there's people, I mean, there's all kinds of people, and there's a lot of people that just don't like to be around other people and they want to be quiet. They're hermits, whatever, so I think there's such a balance of different kinds of people that they're in death have the same thing,
It's not like their personalities change
Yeah.
after.
Right.
They are who they are or were.
Loners, exactly.
Loners. Go ahead, tell the grandmother story, because even if we have
Okay, and I'm pretty sure I did, unless it was something we talked about like pre-show. But when I was 10, my grandmother moved from the home she'd lived in and moved into the upstairs of a 2-story house. And it wasn't old, it was like 30, 35 years old. And when we started going there to visit, I was afraid to use the bathroom. I didn't refuse to shut the door. My mom would be like, "You need to take a shower," and I wouldn't close the shower curtain. I would make her sit with me, and I was very shy at the time, very shy. But I would make her come in, sit on the toilet, and I would take a bath as fast as I could, and get out of there. And my cousin, who, if I was 10, she was probably like 2.5, used to sit at the dining room table, like coloring or whatever. And occasionally she would look in the direction of the bathroom and she would just start screaming and crying and run away. And one weekend I spent there, I was sleeping in the trundle bed and it was down because there wasn't enough room in the bedroom to pull it out all the way. And I could see down the hallway to the bathroom. And this is why sometimes when I'm watching shows like on TV and they go, "Oh, there's an orb," I'm like, "Is it up?" Because this thing came out of the bathroom that was probably like 8 inches across, and this really vicious shade of green, and just started like bobbing down the hallway towards me. And I just whipped the covers over my head. And then I couldn't manage a scream. I couldn't do anything. I got the covers over my head and was just like, "Please don't, please don't, please don't, please don't," in my head. And there was never any further contact at all. I don't know if it ever came all the way down or disappeared at some point, but shortly thereafter, they moved out of that house and moved across the street, and I overheard a conversation that they were having, that in that apartment that they lived in, that the prior tenant had killed himself in the bathroom. So
Oh,
I think the reason why I was afraid, rather than just, oh, this is something that's happening, the reason why I was afraid and was so uncomfortable was because of the negative emotions, I guess, that he had
energy.
possessed at the time that he died.
Right.
Yeah, so that was otherwise, anything else that's ever happened to me, that and the mist were like the scary stuff. Everything else was just like, I sort of took it in my stride and didn't have any problems with it. But that was, and the fact my cousin reacted too. She was not able to really articulate, what was going on, but she would be sitting there just coloring away in her coloring book, and her head would whip towards the bathroom, and she'd scream and run into the living room.
Wow.
So,
Oh.
yeah. So that was the other creepy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a creepy thing. It's a really scary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe if I'd been older, maybe it would have been different. But I was 10, and whatever, like I said, negative energy existed from what his state of mind when he took his life was, I think,
Right.
what really got to me, as a kid, because it wasn't something I could understand, and it frightened me. The whole thing frightened me.
Well, remember when we did that Hill House investigation and we did the live stream from there?
Mhm.
There was a bathroom where someone had committed suicide in the bathtub, and I couldn't even go in the room because
Yeah,
it was so bad.
and it was the only bathroom in their house, so I had to, but I wouldn't close the door. I wouldn't get behind that shower curtain. It was, and my mother, it was funny. My mother came in and sat with me instead of saying, "What is wrong with you?" I don't know if she maybe sensed something too.
Yeah,
She
probably.
just sat with me until I was done, and we exited the bathroom.
Yeah, yeah. But a green thing came bobbing out. That would freak me out.
It was like
Sounds like
this is going to sound gross, but it was like if you had a really bad sinus infection. That's sort of what it looked like. But it had a slight glow
That's
too.
a nice visual.
Oh, I like that picture. Yeah, nice sinus infection. Oh.
I was picturing, Sleeping Beauty, where she's getting lured to the spindle to prick her finger, and it's like a green bobbing light that lures her to
Yeah.
the spindle. I was picturing that, not
You're
a sinus
serious?
infection, but that's what I thought you were gonna say.
I was picturing one of the guys from Ghostbusters floating.
Oh, one of those green blobby things.
Slimer.
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 Yeah, I've never seen a Slimer, but it often has.
My mom would have said, "That's nonsense, Joy. That's nonsense. Go take a shower." She was
Aw.
very practical and did not believe in any kind of supernatural thing at all.
My mom was the opposite of that. She was very open to speaking with people. I don't know how much she had actually experienced herself, but she was very open to speaking with people about the experiences they had had, which is probably why she was like, "Yep, I'll sit on the toilet while you take your bath."
Yeah.
Well, and my mom was, she grew up her mother was very superstitious. They were all, her background was all from Ireland, and, and they all felt that there were sensitive people in the family, but my mom just never believed any of it. So
Hmm.
Huh.
She probably was
Denial.
sensitive. It was
maybe.
just it down.
Maybe so.
Yeah. I mean, because sometimes it's not, fun
Right.
Yeah.
to see or feel. So you can shut it
Definitely.
out. I can remember going through malls and feeling stuff and being like, oh, until I learned how to shut it down, so I didn't have.
Yeah, you have to shut it off sometimes, because otherwise like when I went with Derek, to my son, to the that antique store I was telling you about. It's like, I can't touch anything. My hands are in my pockets, and I just want to see everything. And he was the one who ended up getting grabbed. His jacket got grabbed. And he's like, oh, what the heck?
I know that Rob's had his pants legs pulled. Jesse's been flipped. Someone flipped her on your leg too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Got flipped. Apparently they like to do that. I've
Yeah.
often had my hair pulled in the back. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. I've also felt nauseated and stuff like that. And I can always tell when spirit's trying to communicate because I get goosebumps all over me. I can just feel goosebumps all over me. Almost like electricity in the air.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone else have any stories they would like to
Share?
share?
Or does anyone in the audience have any questions they'd like to ask about anything that we've talked about? We'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, put them up in the comments. And
Yeah.
got a few more minutes.
Anything
This is
scary
like-
to you?
Not so much scary, startling, maybe.
Yeah.
I had a fun one happen. We were doing a private investigation, and we were in someone's screen room in the backyard. And there were several people on this investigation, which is not always my favorite. I like smaller groups. But we had all formed a circle, and it was pitch black out there. And but they were snapping pictures and asking, someone to, if anyone was there, please communicate with us. And someone snapped a picture, and I just happened to look to my left, and there was a shadow figure standing between myself and another woman. And when the flash went off, this shadow figure pulled back and was startled itself, which was I thought very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was standing between the two of us. It looked very typical of what they talk about with the shadow figure, and maybe very sharp features, and it looked like it had on a hat. And so it was different for me. It was startled, and I didn't know they could be startled.
Yeah.
That was
that's
unusual.
Yeah.
So do y'all put any like credence in seances or anything like that? That's one topic I don't think we've ever talked about.
I believe that seances are real and they can happen. I also feel like you have to know what you're doing, or you can be asking a lower level entity to come forth. And how would you know? How would you know, who is actually coming forth? I have done one, and I did that with a very experienced psychic. And we didn't do it in a typical manner that you would see on television. We were sitting in a circle, and basically she was more asking us to call something that, I think it was more my guides than anything else, actually. But and describe what you saw, what you heard. And I saw somebody very clearly, but it was the same person that pops up in my house sometimes. And I feel like that was one of my guides.
Right. I prefer not to call anything forth, but just to speak with whatever's there, for the reason that Beth just said, because you don't know what you're dealing with. So, and since we did, deal with demons, they can be tricky.
They can.
Yeah, I think I would be afraid.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we don't do that, but we don't.
The bad thing is that a lot of times people just think it's fun. Like, oh yeah, let's go do this. And they're not taking any
Like the
precautions.
board.
I think it's true.
Yeah.
You don't have any idea what might happen.
No.
Right.
Beth one time when we were fairly new at this, brought a fellow home from the bar. We were investigating and
Really?
Oh, I didn't know we were telling these kinds of stories.
I couldn't see none. No big deal.
It was an investigation, and this was before Tampa Bay Spirits. It was a different group that we opened, but we never closed. And it was a chaotic
Yeah.
investigation because there
All
were
night long.
guests that were invited to come with us and who kind of tried to take over the investigation. So it was chaotic. Then we never closed, and this ghost came home with us, and
Mhm.
he was here for a couple months before we finally were able to get rid of him. It was not pleasant.
It's probably the only time that I was ever.
Well, what happened?
Yeah.
Well, I've never been scared at anything that's happened because I don't pick nothing up anyway, so I'm oblivious. And she calls me at work and says, somebody's in the house. And they're yelling and screaming at me and calling me names. So I come running home. So I'm going to creep through the house with a baseball bat,
Yeah.
hoping I don't find nothing and don't know what I'm going to do if I do find something.
Yeah.
Right.
The night of the investigation, while we were sleeping, I smelled smoke. And we
Oh,
came
wow.
out to our dishwasher being on fire,
Mhm.
flames.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we got that out. Everything was fine. And trying to clean that up, I went down the hallway and the air conditioner had leaked. And so we had a flood in the
Oh
hallway.
my God.
It's,
That's
I
all
mean,
right.
serious
Yeah.
things can happen.
Yeah, the valve in the toilet.
And
It broke.
yeah, the valve
Flooded
in the
water.
toilet broke, and then it flooded water in there also.
So you think
How'd you
that
get rid of him?
did all that?
We had somebody come in who is used to working with negative energies. We did several. They cleansed the house. We put a salt ring around the house. They marked areas with ash, and I just and that didn't actually work. It got better after that happened. But what got it to work was me finally just telling him off. Get out of my house. You don't belong here. Go back where you're from because you're not welcome here. And after doing that several times, he did go away.
Yeah.
But it was a rough couple months.
Yeah.
We had an entity follow us home from Puerto Rico. He was either a captain or a navigator on a ship, and he had been imprisoned in a dungeon that we visited. And when we walked in there, I could sense him, and so I talked with him, and then some women came in. I mean, it was it was a tourist spot, so as soon as they came in, he like left. What we didn't know was that he then attached himself to us and followed us home. And he was in our house for about 6 months. He was a very lovely person. He wasn't negative or mean or anything like that. He, and like Jesse was saying about sometimes when they try to get your attention, they can be overly aggressive. And Rob was in Virginia, and one of my daughters who lives in California had come to visit, and she stayed in my room with me, and she went out to coffee with her sisters the next morning, and I don't know why I didn't go. I had something I had to do. And she said, "Don't tell Mom, but her house is haunted." She said, "Somebody was shaking our bed last night and shaking and shaking and shaking it." And she said, "And Mom didn't even wake up." And the girl said, "Oh, that's the captain." She said, "What?" And they said, "He came home from Puerto Rico with them." And but they would see him. The kids would see the back of his, coat as he walked by, and you'd hear him opening and closing the doors out on the porch, and
The dog would bark at him.
the dog would bark at him and stuff. And sometimes he'd knock on the walls and stuff, but he really wasn't evil or ill-intentioned. He wanted to get his story across. Ooh, Marjorie has a story. My mother clearly had a very bad experience with the Ouija board when she was young. I don't remember the circumstances now, but I remember her telling me never, ever, ever to use a spirit board. She didn't offer any explanations, didn't say what she experienced, but she was so obviously affected by whatever happened that I didn't even press her for an explanation. I will say I've never gone near a Ouija board in my life. I have to admit I'm still curious about what happened to my mother.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, Marjorie, is that you can literally open up a portal and something will come through that portal. And then if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to get them back out through the portal and then close it. And so that's why we only speak with something that's there already and wants to communicate. We don't call things up from the other side.
Mhm.
I don't think it's wise to do that.
No.
So we don't do that. But anyway, finally the captain had to leave. So
Well, see, both of those things you guys just talked about, that would qualify to me as something really scary.
well, our daughter-in-law didn't like it at all. She was very uncomfortable with it. No, I think
Can't imagine why.
I mean, I don't think any of the other
I think I'd be going to a hotel.
But it was because of my daughter-in-law actually that we finally made him leave. But I told him I would tell people about his story, and I did. I used to tell people about it all the time. And I should really write a short story about him because he was unjustly. This is why he followed us home. He was the ranger there. This was a national park, this fort, and the ranger there told us his story that they knew from the drawings on the wall that he was either a captain of a ship or a navigator because he knew the lay of the land. He drew maps and he drew the pictures of the ships on the wall in the dungeon where he was in prison. And they've got that encased now so it doesn't disappear. In the 1500s, and he depicted battles and all kinds of things. And so he was a leader, obviously. So when we went there, I said to him and the ranger told us that people didn't last in that dungeon for more than a couple of weeks. Normally, they would die of dysentery and yellow fever and all different kinds of things. He was in prison for 22 years. On record, he is the longest prisoner that they had there. And so I said to him, I'm very sorry about what happened to you. And as a leader, it must have been very difficult for you to watch other people die and that you couldn't help them. All right. I said, I can imagine how difficult that must have been. So I think that by saying that, he was like, whoa, somebody that understands me and gets it, and came home with us.
I love you. I'm going home with you.
Please, Joe, listen to me.
Kind of like a puppy following you home.
Yeah.
Right. A 600-year-old puppy.
Yeah, the one that came to our house was pretty mean, though.
Yeah, this guy wasn't mean. He wanted attention, but he wasn't mean. LOL, Rob. I'm wondering if your kids forewarned their would-be husbands' wives might be in for marriage. As a matter of fact, and they warned our grandchildren too. Our son was over the other day, and he said, "Yeah," she said what they might be in for. Yeah, and he said I said something which I won't repeat what I said. But our son turned and looked at his son and he goes, and welcome to my childhood. I heard all the time. And I was like, Tell it like it is, folks.
Let's see how great our kids have turned out.
Yeah, look at Jess.
Yeah, there's one.
Oh boy.
Oh, look at me. I think my husband figured it out from me. He was like, okay, this is the level we're starting from. So, yeah. And then he was just like, oh, okay. This all tracks. This makes sense.
And there are a lot of us, you know, we have 6 kids and they're all married and they all have kids. So we're an overwhelming bunch. And a lot of us are sensitive. So it's like having a bonfire in the night. All the spirits go.
We go to rock climbing with our kids on Wednesday nights, and we had one of their friends in the car with us last night, and Numi started telling them about what we do, and my daughter, she's 9, and she's telling her 9-year-old friend that, you know, well, first she was explaining that you guys have a podcast. And so I was like quiet. I was just like, because the other kid goes like, what's a podcast? And I was like, how is she going to explain this? You know? She's like, well, it's like a broadcast. And, you know, where they talk about things and people can watch it on YouTube or wherever, you know? And I'm like, okay, that was pretty good. Right. And then they were like, why do they do that? And I was like, I'm going to wait and see what she says, you know? And she was like, well, I would think that probably because it's something they like to do. She's like, plus they get to meet all kinds of authors and talk about their books and they like that, you know? And then the kid's like, oh, okay. She's like, and they have another podcast that my mom is on. She's like, and they go and investigate for ghosts and stuff. And it's like quiet. And I'm like, you know, like, and then her friend's like, well, why? Like, what do you mean? Like, is it like on a show or something? And she was like, no, it's not a show. They just go and they like investigate. And she's like, what do you mean investigate? For what? It was so funny. And Numi, I just like was quiet. I was like, I'm not saying a word. I let her explain it, but she was like, they go into houses, people's houses. Sometimes people invite them and they go and they have tools and they look for things that might be there. And her friend was like, very puzzled, and like I think her parents had clearly been like, ghosts aren't real, you know, like kind of a thing. She's like,
Probably.
yeah, but like for a show? And then we kept going, no, it's not for a show. Well, you can watch it on YouTube, but
This kind of
it was confusing, but it was very funny, and she explained it actually really well. And she was like, no, it's not scary, like and it was pretty cute, but it was pretty fun to hear her try to explain what we do and why we might talk about it and things like that. So
Yeah, Jess is always saying, I keep forgetting that other people weren't raised by YouTube.
yeah, and you know, so to answer your question, Marjorie, I think people that meet our family figure it out pretty early on.
We're not sensitive about it.
Yeah, they're like, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we were demonologists for 18 years, so that was a pretty good giveaway right there. Your parents do what now? They do exorcisms.
That reminds me of my grandson who would take a crystal for show and tell
Yes.
every week. and tell the children what the crystal was and what it could be used for and how helpful it was. For each letter of the week, he had a crystal that he would take.
That is very adorable. Numi actually said yesterday while we were at these friends' house, she was like, "Ah, I wish I had a rose quartz so I could like bring a rose quartz for every a bunch of them so I could bring one for all of my coaches so that they could know how much I love and appreciate them."
Aw.
So cute. So and then she said, I was like, well, I think Gran might have a bunch of extra rose quartz. And Numi goes, oh, Gran has lots of crystals. So that's what she calls Joan. She calls my mom Gran. So
I do. I have lots of crystals, and I do have a lot of extra rose quartz if she wants to bring them for her coaches. Everybody can use some emotional healing at some point in their life.
Yeah.
Travel love. It's a good thing.
Well, we're getting kind of late.
Yeah.
Once
Before
again-
we
Oh,
go,
yeah.
though, would it be out of line to talk about your new book?
No, it's never out of line to talk about any of our new books, is it?
Okay.
You're always happy to talk about them, right? Here it is. A Chance
We have
of a
the cover.
Ghost.
Yeah, that's.
He's going to bring up the cover.
All
Oh,
right.
there you go.
It came
That's a
out.
good cover.
And
The
I'm
20
reading it and I'm loving it.
Aw.
Thank you.
I have
That's
a Kindle copy, but I really would like to have an autographed copy.
All right. I think that can happen. I think we can make that happen.
Oh, yeah.
I'll read you what it's about. Will the 100-year-old mystery surrounding missing railroad tycoon Bertram Farnsworth finally be solved? There are two ghosts in the old Victorian mansion. Something is hiding in the attic. A prominent businessman in Magnolia Bluff is about to be murdered. His place of business could be burned to the ground to hide the evidence. Will Mike and Maureen discover what's in the attic? Can they help the two ghosts to pass on? Will they be able to prevent murder and arson? And it's all about Tampa Bay Spirits. And they're fictional investigators, but they use all the same instruments that we use. Oh, Marjorie Deering says, I'm loving it too. I'm glad. And that's the way our investigations really go, is the way that we depicted it in there. Not everything. I don't want to give anything away, but like the ghosts talking to each other, we didn't even plan on writing it that way, but you know how it is. All of you authors, your characters say, this is what I'm doing. I don't care what you wanted to write. So, yeah. Paul Hollis
So
says,
let me just real quick, I wanted to ask you, do they have like a map of
Magnolia Bluff.
Magnolia Bluff?
Yes.
Yes,
So
we-
that you know where, I mean, did somebody, when they initially start this, like draw out the town and the places and everything?
It's kind of sketched out. I don't know.
I thought that, or you'd have to have a wonderful memory.
Oh,
When you're
oh,
going down Magnolia Bluff Street and you're finding the good and plenty,
yeah, they're really good.
They're really good.
They're
yeah.
really good.
Really good. Sorry.
That's
Yeah.
I was like, there's good and plenty.
Yeah, I
No,
like
no,
it.
no. They're really good, but
Yeah.
yeah, there is.
Yeah. Yummy.
We have where the school is and the police station.
Town Square.
They never had a fire station until we wrote this book, so we brought a fire station and a volunteer
So
fire
It's
department
populating the
and
the-
paramedics.
Oh, so everybody can add. And that's why I wondered, because I mean, I could see it being okay to expand, but then the next person coming up would have to, know where that's going to be. So logistically, we'll have to talk, but we'll have to spend some time talking about this in June when we're sitting like by a campfire or something
Oh my
some night,
gosh.
and you can tell me about how that works. That's I think that whole concept is really cool.
Well, we have a
That's so
cannon that's
exciting.
about this thick,
like
It's growing by a book.
Ah, I see.
a series Bible where it has all the details and
Yep.
canon in it. Yeah.
Do not
And
kill list.
Do not kill. And
Ours, but we put out a do not kill, a kill list. You can kill,
you can kill.
and you can't kill because they're already dead.
Yeah.
Now that was the other thing. I wondered if you could surprise each other and they read and they, oh my God, you killed my character.
Yeah.
No, we've got some are sacrosanct. Like we don't want anyone killing Mike and Maureen because then we're not
Yeah.
investigators. But there, I had said to Rob, we're starting our next book for next year already, and I said, I'm not going to say who, but I said, oh, we've got to put so and so on the do not kill list, and he said, why? Why do you want her on the do not kill list? And I said, because I want to kill her.
I mean,
Oh my God.
him or her.
Well, it's her.
Uh,
I
Is there
said,
a do not cross over list?
I know,
So,
right? That's what I was gonna say.
Or is there a
Well,
do not break up this marriage list?
read the book all the way to the end to see if anybody crosses.
You
over.
cannot make this person the town floozy.
Oh yeah, that's what else we did. We added a historical society, and
I was like, you made a town floozy?
No, I was thinking.
Okay.
he's in a bar,
There's
and
20. We're the book 23.
Yeah,
So,
so-
there's a
Plenty
big
of-
history
Okay.
already.
and we named a lot of our characters' names purposely to be funny. Like there's Rusty and Red O'Toole. There's 6'3" volunteer firemen with bright red hair. They're twins.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they're rock climbers. So yeah, but we've it's really fun, but it is logistically it's a bear.
It's been a difficult.
I bet it is. I bet it is. And the further you go, I mean, being on 23 isn't like when you were at 5.
Right, exactly. And it's just going to keep getting, bigger and bigger.
More complicated.
But they are standalone books. I mean, you can read
Each
them.
book
Yep.
is standalone.
You don't
yeah.
have to read them in order. you
Yeah.
know.
But now, like the really good, that comes from C.W. Hawes. That comes from his books. And that's his main character, is the owner of the really good. So when we told him what we were going to do to the really good,
It was like, huh? What?
we said, no,
Don't worry.
it'll be.
Have
okay."
y'all read all of them?
No, I've read a
No.
lot of them.
We've read quite a few.
I read.
I think this is my 5th one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Did you read CW? So you know who the really good is then.
Well, I know who it is, but I don't think it was from his book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Did you read Linda's book maybe? Doggone Diamond Dilemma. That's one of her.
No, I have not read that one. I kind of started like in the middle.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. You can start anywhere. That's
Yeah. They're all on sale right now. I sound like a salesman now, but they're all on sale until tomorrow, I think.
tomorrow night at
Yeah,
midnight.
they're all on sale for 99 cents.
The
So,
Kindle.
yeah, the
not
Kindle.
the
But,
paperback.
one is giveaway. You can download it for free. Cindy's book. So
Mhm.
if you're interested in it, now's a good time to get it because
Mhm.
you can get the whole thing and save it until you get a chance to read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I did last year. I downloaded all.
We
of
did,
them.
yeah.
So, but we do have a canon so that we don't have to keep picking up each book and going through it to find out, what does this place look like and that kind of thing. And
Right.
it's been difficult to express the voice of somebody else's character correctly and to be true to the way that
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
and there now, like Lily, who's at the B&B, the Flower B&B. It's a bed and breakfast there in town. I found her really easy to write, so I had fun with her. And that's Rox and Charles write that from the Enigma series. But I found it really easy to do her voice. But some of the other people I had trouble with. I don't know if you did or not, but it was hard for me. I was like,
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And if this was a Twilight Zone episode, they'd all be living somewhere right now. All these people
they are.
waiting for what comes next.
Yeah.
They're having a high time there in
There's
Magnolia Bluff.
There's a new book. The 20th of each month. There's a new book. So
Mhm.
Wow.
For
our
all
next
year
one will
long.
be in April. Next April.
Yep.
In theory.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Yeah. But it has been really
Exciting.
fun. There's a lot of them. Yeah.
If you don't hear from us for a while, we're trying to get out of all these books.
These are all Magnolia Bluff books right there beside me. Yeah, but it's been fun, and
But in the afterward, we talk all about Tampa Bay Spirits and give our website address and everything. So,
and I think it's because of what we experienced at the May Stringer that our ghosts are the way they are, because Gary that we were talking with up there in the attic, he really humanized entities for me in a way that I'd never, really, he was a fun person.
He had a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yes, he really did.
Really did.
Dad did it.
Beth said,
The cat did.
Beth said very quietly, and you were sitting behind me, and I was quite a ways from Jesse, so I know there's no way Jesse could have heard you with the noise canceling headphones.
No.
And you said, the last time I was here, I was scratched. And he goes, well, that was the cat. Yeah.
That was the cat.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't hear what you said. I hesitate. I can't tell, or I haven't listened to the video or watched the video or listened to the tape, but the recording, it's not tape. We go old school. We bring actual tape and
tapes.
no.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. No, but I haven't listened to it, but as I remember it, I didn't think that could be what it was asking me to say. So I think I said that was the cat, like that, like because
right.
Yeah, you said it about 3 times, in the third time.
Okay, yeah, the
cat.
cat, because I kept thinking, what else that doesn't make sense. What could they be asking that I'm saying that was the cat? Like, and I'm like, I don't know. But I kept trying to say a different word, like maybe it's something. No, it was the cat. And then sure enough, to find out later.
Well, yeah, then the docents told us,
So
did you know
funny.
that there's a ghost cat in here? And we said, no.
Yeah.
Gary told
That's
us.
so cool.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I know. I can't wait to go back and talk with him some more.
It's a great place.
Oh, it is
Yeah.
a great place. And he's really cool and fun. I think he'll be happy to see us too. Because at the end, he said, are we friends? Are we friends? We said, yes, we're friends. And then he said,
like
"Are we
family, right?
like family, right?"
Oh,
And we said, yeah, we're like family. Really sweet guy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, other groups go
makes
and
me want to cry.
yeah.
What did you say?
It almost makes me want to cry. I'm sorry, Beth. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying.
Late.
I'm sure we all teared up.
Yeah.
And Beth?
Les and I didn't.
No, I'm good.
No, it's just unfortunate that other groups go there and they're reporting things like it's evil and hates women, and that's just not been our experience.
No.
Well, it's not as juicy to say that that's as, you know, that's a nice person in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
I guess that's true.
Yeah,
And
there's
it's
a
what they're
couple.
bringing.
I mean, I'm
in
not
with-
saying that's right. I'm saying,
Right.
I'm sure when they come out, they know it's like, oh boy, I couldn't believe how they were terrible. And
There's a couple of groups that are really commercializing everything now,
Mhm.
and they're selling all these different events. They'll book the event and then they'll sell it to the public to take them on a ghost hunt. And I read a part where May Stringer, and they were trying to get people to go to the deal and investigate, but they were, what was it, $250 I think it was to investigate it, and they were charging each individual, and they could take up to 10, $200 a piece.
Whoa.
Wow.
Another
And they were
paranormal-
doing all over the state and all over the Southeast. They were putting these investigations together. And that's going to really tear stuff up because, you know, they're going to want to have stuff to make the next bunch go. So they're going to make stuff up. They're going
Right.
yeah.
to lie about it.
That's sad.
That really makes me mad.
Yeah.
It does.
It really does. I mean, we don't charge anything, you know. We do everything for free that we do, and just to
We
help
pay for it.
public
We
places.
spend money on it.
When I was thinking of was that one house where we went, and her pastor said that you better watch out. They're probably charlatans, and
Oh, right.
Yeah.
and Jess said, "Well, we're pretty bad at being charlatans because we don't."
Yeah, I
charge."
said, tell your
we don't
pastor
make
not
any
to
money.
worry. We're very bad at it.
Well, and guess who called yesterday?
Oh
Oh,
no, she
no.
did not.
Yeah.
No,
I missed the call. So
Oh,
Darn.
yeah.
no, it's yay.
Sure. I think Robin got it.
Oh, I think
Robin
she
was
did
like,
too.
darn.
I will tell you one thing that this person did, and I think it's really funny, is that she called up Les and asked if Jess, Beth, or I could help her find her bras. She didn't know where she was.
she said she had them hanging in the bathroom before we got there on hangers. And she went and grabbed them all up and moved them off somewhere so that we wouldn't see them. But she wanted to know where she put them. So she wanted to know if you girls could tell her where she put them.
Well, Paul Hollis says, great discussion as always. I'm switching over to Atlanta to keep up the ratings. By the way, how are your ratings on that? Are we participating enough? Thanks, Paul. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Paul.
May 5th, I think.
We find out sometime in May after the Nielsen ratings. Isn't that crazy that we're worried about Nielsen ratings? But she'll let us know then.
That's weird.
She had told us early on that that the responses on their computer where they do it on their FM, and then they also put it on a YouTube or something like that, or their website. And she told us that for a brand new show that we had a very healthy response, and so I don't know.
Good.
We'll see.
That's cool.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know, but yeah, Rob's tuning in right now, as a matter of fact, because we listen to it every week to help the Nielsen ratings too. Nielsen depends on how much we'll get paid for commercials, so
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
yeah, it would be finally. Well, we are charlatans, so great.
There's that.
There is that, yeah.
That's what the shirts should have said for Pennsylvania.
Oh, the
For
here
getting-
come the charlatans.
The Gettysburg charlatans.
I would have thought we were a basketball team or something.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what they're going
Like
to
a basketball team.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be like, who are those people?
We always get confused for basketball teams wherever we go.
Well,
Yeah, 5 foot and half an inch, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robin's the center.
She's our Muggsy Bogues.
Oh, Ron Alexander. Hey, Ron.
Ron.
How are you? He's trying to tune in. We're just ending the show. I'm sorry. How do you like Virginia, right? You moved to Virginia? I hope you're having a good time there. Ron is one of the authors that has been on the other podcast.
I am too.
Oh,
Awesome.
Paula says, she's watching both. So is Rob. Rob has got
It's
our
in my
Ninja
ear
show
right
on
now.
right now.
Listening to myself talking is weird.
Who is it? Who's the
I
author?
don't.
He's listening, but he has no idea what
I
he's
don't.
listening
I
to.
scheduled it,
Oh.
and I don't remember.
Yeah. Well,
I like-
anyway.
I like to think Paul Hollis has like a bunch of screens, like Batman, like center, you know. Alfred's there with him. They're like watching all the podcasts.
Spartan Neil was on tuned into our podcast last night. That was fun. That was a nice surprise
Awesome.
to have him tune in.
Well, I really liked everybody's stories.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do we
Yeah,
have a
next
topic
one-
or next one or
I don't think so.
not yet?
No.
Anybody have any suggestions?
Anything you want us to talk about on our next show, let us know. Or if you have an idea right now, we'll hold on here for a few minutes.
No, I was just asking. I don't have any ideas just yet.
I meant anybody in the audience.
Okay, and then want the word "shut up." Okay.
Oh my God.
Telling you what, everybody. I'm speaking to the audience. You're all going to wish that you were with us on this trip that we're taking to Gettysburg, because it's really going to be.
If we can figure out a way to do a live show.
Oh, if we could do
yeah.
it, because it is going to be so much fun.
That would be great.
Oh, Ron thought we were doing a 9 p.m. Meet the Author. That is on the FM radio station in Atlanta, Ron. That's what's on. It's
WDJY.
99.1 FM
Yeah.
in Atlanta, Georgia.
But you can listen to it on www.wdjyfm, I think, right?
There,
.com.
Yeah, .com. You can listen to it on their .com. And I think it's Randy Weir that was on tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So poor Ron's trying to listen to an author and we're telling ghost stories.
Talked about a book.
Yeah, we did.
Well,
Anyway, I think that we're going to have so much fun in Gettysburg. And I know when we've gone there before, it's been amazing. I mean, it's very sobering and emotional, I think, to be there. But we're going to have fun. Ron got it. Yay. Good, Ron. It was good to see you. Sort of see you. You know what I mean. From you.
See his name.
well, anybody got anything else they want to share?
It's been fun.
Yes.
It's been great.
Hey, listen, really have a great time at the book signing in San
Yeah,
Leon.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. I look forward to it.
And enjoy
Enjoy
the
it.
oysters. And you're gonna meet a lot of great people. We know a lot of the authors that are there.
Thank you,
Marjorie.
Marjorie.
I'm excited.
Marjorie said, "Thanks for another great podcast, everyone."
Thanks,
Thank you,
Marjorie.
thank you, Marjorie.
Good night, Marjorie.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
I guess. Until next time.
Until
Good
next time.
night.
Yes.
This is like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Good night, John